I'm Sophia Bennett. I'm 32 years old, and this morning I stood barefoot in my kitchen in Denver, Colorado, holding a mug of coffee that had gone cold while my phone lit up beside it like a warning flare. 29 missed calls. All from the same Illinois number. I did not need to hear the voicemail to know what waited inside it. Some memories do not die. They do not fade with time or distance or therapy or new names or better lives. They crouch in the dark like animals, patient and silent, until the smallest sound wakes them. For me it was one ringtone, one area code, one blinking screen. And in an instant I was 12 years old again, standing in Union Station in Chicago with $9 in my pocket, watching the only people who were supposed to love me turn my fear into a joke. My mother left me there on purpose. My father laughed while she did it. They made a bet over whether I could find my way home alone. I remember the exact sensation of my stomach dropping when I realized they were not coming back. I remember how huge the station felt, how loud the announcements sounded, how every face around me belonged to a stranger. I remember feeling small in a way children should never feel. That day split my life in two. There was the girl I had met at the train station, and the woman I had to become after it. I never went back. Not that night. Not the next week. Not ever. I built a new life, a new family, a new name. I buried my old one so deep that some days I almost believed it had never belonged to me. But the past has a cruel sense of timing, because 20 years later it had found my number. And it was calling again. I grew up in Willow Creek, Illinois, in a house where appearances mattered more than truth. From the outside we looked perfect. My parents owned 3 successful home goods stores. They sold kitchen appliances, bedding, lamps, discount furniture, anything middle America needed to feel organized and respectable. Our lawn was trimmed. Our shutters were painted. My father grilled burgers on Sundays while neighbors laughed in folding chairs. My mother brought casseroles to church potlucks and remembered everyone's birthdays. People loved them. People admired them. People said I was lucky. Inside our house, luck had a different meaning. Inside our house, love was conditional. Praise was rare. Humiliation was common. And cruelty always arrived disguised as a lesson. My mother's favorite phrase was, "The world won't be gentle with you." She said it before punishments. She said it after punishments. She said it when she wanted to justify making a child cry. If I forgot homework, I was irresponsible. If I asked for help, I was helpless. If I cried, I was manipulative. It was abuse in cleaner clothes. Children normalize almost anything. That is one of the saddest truths I know. When cruelty is daily, it starts to feel ordinary. I did not think my parents were monsters. I thought I was defective. Why else would they treat me that way? I became quiet, efficient, careful. I learned the sound of my mother's footsteps and what moods belonged to each pace. I learned how to answer questions with the least possible emotion. I learned how to stay useful enough to be ignored. My only escape was drawing. I drew constantly, on notebook margins, on grocery receipts, on napkins, on the backs of store flyers. I drew bedrooms with locks, windows opening into sunlight, women standing alone on cliffs with no one behind them. I did not know then that I was sketching freedom. I only knew paper was kinder than people. When I was 12, I got a B+ in art. It should have been meaningless. Instead, it became the reason everything changed. My mother stood in the kitchen holding my report card like evidence in a trial. A B+? In the one subject you waste your life on. My father shook his head. Lazy. I apologized, though I did not know for what. That night, I heard them talking in the kitchen after they thought I was asleep. Low voices. Soft laughter. My mother said, "She needs one she'll remember." My father said, "I'll bet $50 on that." The next morning they were cheerful. Too cheerful. My mother made pancakes. My father poured orange juice. They said we were taking a family day trip to Chicago. For one desperate moment I believed maybe this was kindness. Children will believe almost anything if they are hungry enough for love. The drive to Chicago felt wrong. My father blasted music and drummed the steering wheel. My mother kept turning around in the passenger seat to ask questions. Do you think you're smart? Do you think life cares if you're scared? Do you think talent excuses laziness? Every answer amused them. Silence amused them too. By the time the skyline appeared, dread had already arrived. We parked near Union Station around noon. I had never seen anything so large or busy. People rushed in every direction carrying bags and coffee cups and purpose. The station hummed with movement. I clung close because I did not know where else to stand. Inside the main hall, my mother pointed to a marble pillar. "Wait here," she said. "We're moving the car and grabbing lunch." "How long?" 15 minutes. "Can I come?" My father laughed loudly enough that strangers turned. "You're 12, not 2. My mother leaned close enough for me to smell her perfume. "Do not embarrass me in public." Then they walked away. I watched the clock. 15 minutes. 30. 45. First I explained it away. Parking trouble. Long lines. Traffic. After an hour my chest hurt. After 90 minutes my hands shook. I had $9. No phone. No written address. No idea how trains worked. I stepped away from the pillar twice, then rushed back, terrified they would return and punish me for moving. That is what abuse does. Keeps controlling you even in absence. The station grew louder. Every announcement startled me. Every dark-haired woman made me turn. Every minute felt personal. Then I saw our car through the front windows. My whole body flooded with relief. I ran toward the glass waving both arms. My father was driving. My mother sat in the passenger seat. Both were looking directly at me. My father smiled first. Not kindly. Triumphantly. My mother lowered the window and shouted over traffic. "I bet $50 you can't even find your way home." Then she laughed. My father laughed with her. He gave me a thumbs up. And they drove away. There are moments when childhood ends so suddenly you can almost hear the sound. That was mine. Until then, some part of me still believed there was a misunderstanding possible. That maybe they were harsh. Maybe unfair. Maybe damaged. But still parents. Still mine. Still tethered by some hidden thread of love. Watching them laugh while I panic severed that thread forever. My fear was not collateral damage. It was the point. I stood frozen until someone brushed past me and muttered, "Excuse me." The ordinary irritation of a stranger snapped me back into my body. I ran inside. I wandered for hours. I cried quietly, wiping my face because even abandoned children can still be ashamed of tears. I sat, stood, walked, circled, waited, then slowly stopped waiting. There is a difference between waiting to be found and understanding you have been left. At 12 it feels like falling through ice. The person who saved me was a station employee named Maria. She was in her 50s with tired eyes and a voice so calm it made honesty feel safe. She had apparently watched me pass the same vending machines 3 times. She stopped me near a hallway and asked gently, "Honey, are you lost?" "No," I lied. "Where are your parents?" "Coming back." "How long have you been waiting?" I shrugged. "Have you eaten today?" That question broke me. I started sobbing so hard I could barely breathe. Everything spilled out. They left me. They laughed. They bet money. Maria did not tell me to calm down. She did not accuse me of exaggerating. She crouched to eye level and said, "You are safe now. I'm going to help you." No one had ever said those words to me before. "You are safe now." Security came first. Then transit police. They reviewed cameras. They took statements. They brought crackers and water. One officer called my parents. I heard only his side. Then I heard the sentence that changed everything. "No, ma'am," he said sharply. Leaving a 12-year-old in a major transit station is not teaching independence. It is child abandonment. I remember going cold. Not because the words were harsh. Because they were true. By evening, a social worker explained I would not be returning home that night. My parents refused to come back immediately. They insisted it had been discipline. There would be an emergency placement until court review. I was terrified. Children raised in fear are taught to fear rescue too. That night I met Mark and Laura Bennett. They were licensed foster parents. He was a photographer with ink-smudged fingers. She was a preschool teacher who smelled faintly like lotion and paper. Their house was warm in an unpolished way. Shoes by the door. Framed photos crooked on the wall. A sleeping dog somewhere down the hall. Laura asked if I wanted soup or spaghetti. Mark asked whether I preferred the hall light on at night. Nobody mocked me when I said I didn't know. Nobody rolled their eyes when I cried at dinner after 2 bites. Nobody called me dramatic. I barely slept. Every car door outside made me flinch. Every floorboard creak made me sit upright. But beneath the fear was one impossible thought. Strangers had shown me more kindness in a single evening than my own parents had shown in years. Once you learn that cruelty is not universal, it becomes harder to mistake it for normal. The months that followed were a blur of courtrooms, interviews, therapy evaluations, and supervised meetings. My parents arrived polished and offended. My mother wore pearls. My father acted inconvenienced. They did not deny what happened. They defended it. My mother said she was building resilience. My father said children today were too soft. A court-appointed therapist described a pattern of emotional abuse, humiliation, neglect, and escalating endangerment. Hearing those words felt like oxygen. For years, I had assumed I was the problem because children often choose self-blame over hopelessness. The report is named reality. When the judge asked whether I wanted to return home during monitored reunification, I said no so fast it startled even me. My mother looked betrayed. My father muttered, "Ungrateful." The court offered them a path back: parenting classes, therapy, supervision, accountability, or voluntary surrender of parental rights. They chose to surrender. Just like that. Not because they could not fight. Because they would not be examined. They gave me up to protect their pride. That truth hurt more cleanly than anything else. The Bennetts adopted me the following year. When the judge asked whether I wanted to change my name, I said yes before she finished the sentence. Jennifer Caldwell was the girl at the station. Sophia Bennett was the girl getting a bedroom with fresh sheets and art supplies. Laura changed the linens every Sunday. Mark left sketchbooks on my desk without speeches. They did not demand gratitude. They simply stayed. Consistency can feel miraculous to a frightened child. Healing was not cinematic. No montage fixed me. I did not instantly blossom. For years, kindness felt suspicious. If Laura said she'd be back in 15 minutes, I watched the clock. If Mark was late to pick me up, panic made my fingers numb. I hated waiting in public. I hated being told to stay put. I hated hearing, "I'll be right back." Therapy gave me words. Trauma, hypervigilance, emotional abuse, nervous system. I learned something important. Surviving danger teaches skills that become prisons later. I was excellent at reading tension, terrible at resting. The Bennetts never rushed me. They came to the school events. They remembered triggers. They knocked before entering my room. They let love be boring. That healed more than grand gestures ever could. Art became more than escape. It became language. I poured myself into it through high school, then into college, then into the Art Institute of Chicago. Returning to the same city that once held my abandonment became its own kind of reclamation. Chicago no longer belonged to that memory alone. After graduation, I moved to Denver. Distance felt medicinal. I joined a branding firm, then started my own design studio, helping small businesses tell honest stories about who they were. The irony was not lost on me. My whole career was built on clarity after growing up inside lies. I met Alex at a friend's housewarming party. He was patient without making patience his personality. On our third date, I said I had family issues. Months later, I told him about Union Station. He did not overreact. He did not offer cliches. He just reached for my hand and said, "That should never have happened to you." I almost cried from the simplicity. We married 3 years later. Mark walked me down the aisle. Laura fixed my dress while pretending not to cry. We adopted a rescue dog named Max with one torn ear and trust issues of his own. I blocked every attempt my biological parents ever made to contact me. Emails, social media, holiday voicemails, new numbers. I wanted peace. And eventually I had it. Until the 29 missed calls. There was also a voicemail. Then an email. Then a LinkedIn message request. That last one unnerved me most. Someone had worked to find me. Alex watched my face drain of color. "Do you want me to listen first?" he asked. I shook my head and pressed play. The voice belonged to my younger sister, Hannah. I had not heard it since she was a child in mismatched socks following me through hallways. Now it sounded older. Frayed. She said our mother had late-stage cancer. Our father had suffered a mild stroke months earlier. The stores were gone. All of them. Closed or sold. Then she explained why. Years earlier, my mother had commented online under a parenting post saying children today needed stronger discipline. A relative replied with a vague reference to that train station incident. People in Willow Creek began talking. Someone found an old newspaper brief about a custody matter. A former employee described how my parents behaved privately. The image they curated for decades collapsed fast. Customers stopped coming. Church friends disappeared. Civic invitations dried up. The town that once protected them with politeness destroyed them with gossip. Now they lived in a subsidized apartment. No status. No stores. No audience. Then Hannah said the real reason for the 29 calls. They want you to come back. Of course they did. Not for remorse. For comfort. For absolution. For help. For someone to witness them as victims. I asked Hannah why she was contacting me at all. Long silence. Because I wanted you to hear the truth from someone who isn't lying. She had recently become a mother. After having a son, she requested court records to understand why I vanished from the family story. Our parents had told her I was manipulated by foster parents. That the state overreached. That I overreacted. Reading the records changed everything. She cut contact too. I felt no triumph. Only exhaustion. She asked if I would come. I said I would think about it. That night, Alex said, "You owe them nothing." Laura said, "Choose what brings you peace, not what brings them comfort." Mark said quietly, "Some people only look for bridges after they've burned the house down." By morning I knew. I was not going back to save them. I was going back to end it in my own voice. 2 days later, I flew to Chicago and drove to the hospital. My mother's room smelled like disinfectant and fear. My father looked smaller than memory allowed. Age and disgrace had peeled away the performance. My mother still arranged her face instinctively, even sick, as though dignity were makeup. No one spoke at first. Then she started crying. Theatrical, immediate tears. She said my old name. I corrected her once. Sophia. She nodded and dabbed her eyes. My father said, "We made mistakes." Mistakes. The word cowards use when the truth is too ugly. I stayed standing. "No," I said. "A mistake is missing a turn. Forgetting milk. Sending the wrong email." They stared. "What you did was deliberate. You abandoned a child in a city she did not know. You laughed while she panicked. Then you lied about it for 20 years. My father inhaled to defend himself. I raised a hand. "No. I did not fly here to hear you explain cruelty in softer language." Silence. Machines beeped quietly. I continued. "You turned fear into a game. And the reason you are here now without your business, your reputation, or either daughter beside you is simple." I looked at each of them. Games end. Children grow up. Truth catches up. My mother whispered, "Can you forgive us?" I thought about the word. How often society hands it to the wounded like an obligation. Then I said, "Forgiveness is not rent I owe people who only came looking for me when they were lonely." She cried harder. It did not move me. Not because I was cruel. Because I was free. Then I gave them the sentence I had carried since childhood. You bet on whether I could find my way home. My voice did not shake. I did. I just never came back to yours. My father wept then. Real tears maybe. Too late tears definitely. I told them I would not pay bills. I would not manage care. I would not restore contact. I told them Hannah had every right to protect her son. I told them my family lived in Colorado and in the home of 2 people who had earned the title. My father asked, "Is this really goodbye?" I met his eyes. It was goodbye 20 years ago. You are only now catching up. Then I walked out. In the parking lot, the air felt sharp and clean. My hands shook. Not from regret. From release. Some endings do not arrive with music. They arrive in silence. On the flight home, I thought about the little girl in Union Station who believed being abandoned meant being unlovable. She had been wrong. She was not unwanted by the world. She was rejected by 2 broken people who mistook control for strength and humiliation for parenting. There is a difference. Learning it saved my life. When I landed in Denver, Alex was waiting by baggage claim with Max's leash wrapped around one wrist because apparently, the dog had insisted on coming. Max nearly dragged him over when he saw me. I knelt on the airport floor and laughed into his fur. Then I cried. Alex held both of us. No speeches. No questions. Just warmth. At home, Laura had mailed banana bread that arrived while I was gone. Mark texted, "Proud of you." Hannah sent one message. "Thank you for telling the truth." I answered, "Protect your son. Break the pattern." She replied with a heart. That was enough. If there is any lesson in my story, it is not revenge. Revenge is loud in movies. Real justice is often quieter. It is boundaries. It is naming harm accurately. It is refusing to carry guilt that belongs to someone else. Abuse does not become discipline because a parent uses nicer words. Humiliation does not build character. Fear does not make children stronger. It only makes them older too soon. Walking away from people who hurt you, even if they share your blood, is not bitterness. Sometimes it is healthy. Sometimes it is survival. Sometimes it is the first honest act of your life. My parents shaped some of my wounds. They did not get to define my future. Real love does not laugh when you are scared. A real family does not test whether you can survive without them. Real healing begins the moment you stop calling cruelty a lesson and start calling it what it was. Once you do that, you can build something they can never touch. A life that is steady. A life that is honest. A life where the phone rings and the past no longer owns your heartbeat. And when it finally comes looking for you, you are already home.